Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Module 13, Apply Safe Car Driving Behaviours. This should be a very familiar area of content for you because most of you would have licenses and ought to know a great deal of the material that is contained within this module. So each year millions of people are injured and die on roads as a result of motor vehicle accidents. Statistics show that the age group more associated with motor vehicle accidents are those aged between 15 and 29 years old. The Department of Infrastructure states the annual economic cost of road crashes in Australia is enormous, estimated at $27 billion per annum, and the social impacts are devastating. The highest contributor was speed, then over the period alcohol and fatigue or similar, then not using restraints, i.e. seat belts and baby or booster seats. If we have a look at the facts from Transport New South Wales, a total of 195 people have died in 174 drug driving fatal crashes in the 4-year period between 2010 to 2013. These crashes involved a driver or rider with at least 1 or 3 illicit drugs, cannabis, speed or ecstasy in their system. Fatalities from these crashes make up about 13% of our overall road toll. Two other statistics of note from the same report by Road Safety Transport New South Wales is that you are 32 times more likely to be killed in a crash when using both drugs and alcohol. You are 18 times more likely to be killed in a crash when using multiple drugs. You can have a look at this report yourself, and on the PowerPoint presentation slide is a link to the article. Defining and applying safe car driver behaviours. Now, this ought to be something that you know well. However, we do tend to, over a period of time, dissipate some of our knowledge around safe car driving behaviour. Based on the American Standard for Safe Driving to save lives, time and money in spite of the conditions around you and the actions of others is safe driving. Think about this in the context of the number of fatalities, the cost of $27 billion per annum, and the compounding effect for other people, the community and the government. Safe driving involves 3 elements. Safe driver, so is a person who has the correct license to drive the particular vehicle while they are using. Safe vehicles, which is a safe vehicle is one that drives according to its original design, specifications and driven according to those specifications. And safe driver behaviour. A driver's behaviour is the most important key to safe car driving. Around a third of all, 5 important areas for ensuring safe driving behaviour are drink driving or under the influence of drugs, speeding, including adjusting the speed and according to the conditions, fatigue, which extends to not driving over a 2-hour period, seat belts and ensuring they are used and fitted correctly, and mobile phones and GPS and other technical devices which are distractions while under the control of the vehicle. So, some of those important areas for consideration are, again, the drink driving and influence of drugs, speeding, fatigue, seat belts, and distractions such as mobile phones. Around a third of all our deaths on roads involve alcohol and or drugs in some manner. A driver with a blood alcohol level of 0.05 is twice as likely to have an accident as a driver with a blood alcohol level of 0. Transport New South Wales campaign suggests that letting someone else drive, using public transport and sleeping at someone else's place are the way to having a plan B. Speeding is a serious cause of crashes on the roads. It's against the law to drive over the specified speed limit. Every kilometre over is a killer. Reduce your speed when visibility, weather or road conditions are poor, pedestrian activity is high, the vehicle is heavily loaded or towing a trailer, and driving in or around hospitals and schools. Fatigue causes approximately 20% of road accidents. When fatigued, you're not operating at normal capacity. This weakens a person's judgment and slows down the body's reaction time. Fatigue is simply dangerous when operating a vehicle and exacerbated by the driving conditions at that time because of the various risks. Increases the risk that you fall asleep at the wheel. Microsleeps can be a portion of a second up to 30 seconds and can also occur from fatigue. The driver does not respond or process information as they would normally. Transport New South Wales' campaign to decrease the accidents and increase the awareness of driver fatigue was not to be drunk, not to be speeding, and not to be tired. Seatbelts save lives and greatly reduce the risk of injury in the event of a crash. 20% of people killed in road accidents were not wearing their seatbelts in the report discussed earlier. Safe driving behaviour is someone who wears their seatbelt and ensures their passengers are all wearing theirs before even starting the vehicle. Driving while holding your mobile phone can be more dangerous than driving a vehicle while under the influence of alcohol or drugs. The government has now made it illegal to use a handheld mobile phone while the vehicle's engine is on. Australian research proves that using a mobile phone while driving increases the risk of a road accident up to 4 times. Which one would you consider to be the greatest danger to safe driving? Alcohol and drugs, speed, attitude and behaviour, or fatigue? The road is shared but not only other drivers, but by motorcyclists, trucks, pedestrians and cyclists. Approaching the road with this attitude decreases the aggressive approach some drivers take. While you may not know what you are doing, you do not know what other drivers while you may know what you are doing, you do not know what other drivers are necessarily going to do, their behaviour and certainly what they are thinking. Consider the following factors that will improve the level of safety when driving: the actual route you are going to take for the journey, travel via schools or heavy pedestrian traffic areas, lighting and visibility. Will the weather be favourable? What will I be carrying? Any loads, trailers, passengers, weights, numbers, type. What's the road surface and its condition? What restraints do I need? Baby, children, animals. Low-risk driving involves not taking unnecessary risk. A hazard is any possible condition or factor that increases the risk of a crash or a collision. Hazards need to be identified as part of the driving process. Examples include an animal that is not on a leash, a pedestrian is standing too close to the curb, a blind corner in a road that cannot be seen. Around the corner. So thinking about these hazards, what are some of the things you could do to decrease the risk? An animal that is not on a leash, a pedestrian is standing too close to the curb, a blind corner in the road that cannot be seen around. Low-risk driving principles would guide you to observation at all times while driving, scanning the environment while driving, so that is about seeing whether people are standing too close to the curb. Are there many pedestrians? Correct management of the vehicle's speed that considers the legal speed limit and additional judgment for specific weather and road conditions. The distance you maintain from any hazards while under the control of a vehicle. This is referred to either buffering or creating a space cushion. The use of buffering around the vehicle is important in reducing the risk of hazards. This is achieved by you moving the vehicle's position on the road. According to the RMS website, reaction time is the time the driver needs to see the information, perceive what it means, decide on a response, and instigate that response. You need to see and then perceive and then decide, then instigate the response to avoid a collision. See, perceive, decide, instigate. The difference between 1 second and 3 seconds is enormous. That can make all the difference between a crash or the avoidance of a crash. Remember the 4-second micro sleep. How many meters did you cover while asleep? It was 111 meters. For 2 seconds, that is 55 meters, one Olympic-sized pool at 100 kilometers an hour. Following another vehicle is something that needs to be considered often, especially as we become a more densely populated, vehicle-orientated community. Look for the spot, landmark and count from there. You need to adjust your speed based on the counts. Once adjusted, try the count again. Remember that the vehicle in front of you should have a similar gap. Otherwise, should something cause them to brake or swerve, they too could end up in a crash that may involve you. This rule will vary on the speed you are travelling at the time. The faster the speed, the greater the crash avoidance space required. So for 60 kilometers an hour, the crash avoidance space is 50 meters. For 80 kilometers an hour, it is 67 meters. And for 100 kilometers an hour, it is 84 meters. If this simple rule was followed by motorists, a lot of the crashes that occur on New South Wales roads each day would be eliminated. There are top 5 tips to get you home safely. It's a 2-minute, 11-second video. You can find it on YouTube, and the link is here on this PowerPoint slide for you. It is worth taking the time to have a look at it. Similarly, take a driving tip from us. Learning to drive isn't as straightforward as you may think. This is an NRMA safe driving video. Again, useful for you to go and have a look at. It provides insight and depth and expands your knowledge in this area. Let us have a look at interpreting and applying low-risk driving strategies. In the first topic, the issues of driving hazardous and risks were covered. This is built upon by looking at statistics that can identify those who are at greatest risk and how over time there have been improvements. For safe driving behaviour, this continuous process is one of education and being reminded of how to not become a statistic when in control of or as a passenger. There is a difference in the level of accidents, injuries and fatalities that vary according to age and sex, whether you're a male or a female. Those at greatest risk is the young and or inexperienced drivers. The provisional P-plate driver is inexperienced and is statistically in a lot of collisions. Risks are classified as both intentional and unintentional. Intentional risk behaviour includes hooning. Hoon-related activities such as burnouts, donuts, drag racing and driving while disqualified and high-level speeding are all illegal acts. They will either result in loss of licence, heavy licences, the seizing of your vehicle and or jail time. The attitude of being immune and so-called bulletproof in the event of a collision is a behaviour and belief that is an enormous problem. Male and female drivers involved in crash year ending July 2015, statistics show that there were 347 male drivers, which was 77.6%. There were 3 times the amount of males in fatal car crashes. Risks related to young drivers. Other risks include the use of mobile, both voice and text driving in excess of safe limits, tailgating and nighttime driving. According to the Young Driver Fact Base website, based on a study of over 20,000 young drivers in New South Wales, self-reported risky driving behaviours were associated with 50% increase in the risk of crashing. I have placed the link for this report on this PowerPoint slide, and you're welcome to go and have a look at this for yourself. The Today Tonight Young Drivers 6-minute 6-second video is focused on working with the Hale School. The RAC Driving Centre has pioneered a new enhanced driving program for young drivers to teach essential skills they'll need when they hit the road for the first time. Again, I recommend that you go and you watch this video. The link is here on the PowerPoint slide for you. We all need to understand the limits of our own capabilities when we're driving. Anything that distracts you from the primary function of driving while in control of a moving vehicle is a distraction. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines it as something that makes it difficult to think or pay attention. That runs counter to safe driving behaviour, as you could appreciate. There are numerous distractions that can be categorised as a visual distraction that takes your eyes away from the road, the traffic and the need to maintain an adequate buffer. A cognitive distraction, such as thinking about work, family or other issues. A physical distraction that would require you to do something else while driving. And an auditory distraction, such as an emergency service vehicle or siren. There is a list from the South Australian Government which provides some examples of the outcomes. To straddle lanes or veer across the road, to drive inconsistently, speeding up or slowing down, difficulty in maintaining appropriate safe following distances from the vehicle in front, to have slower reaction times and hence heightened crash risks, and to create impairment of judgment. All of these can occur if you are distracted while driving. You can easily influence good driver behaviour to others by encouraging, educating and advising other road users, educating road users on shared responsibility, encouraging driver safety, being courteous with other and new road users, taking the appropriate action against those who do break the road rules and provide an unsafe environment for other road users. The rationale of low-risk driving strategies is to reduce the accidents and statistics when it comes to fatalities and injuries on the road. Remember what the main problems are. The first was speed, the second major problem is driver fatigue, and the next was the alcohol and or drugs. If you're a learner, red plate driver, or on a special license that requires you not to drink, you're not allowed to have any alcohol. For other drivers, the allowed concentration is 0.05 grams per breath. There are many factors that can affect someone's alcohol to blood concentration. 2 people can drink the same type and the same amount of alcohol, but how intoxicated they get based on their body size, empty stomach, body fat, and women versus men. To keep below a 0.05, for men, 2 standard drinks within the first hour and 1 standard drink every hour thereafter. For women, 1 standard drink within the first hour and 1 standard drink every hour after. This is based on the Australian Transport Safety Bureau. Everyone who is inside a vehicle by law is required to wear a seatbelt. Occupants should use a lap sash seatbelt. Children must be in an appropriate car safety device. Statistics from the New South Wales Transport Road Safety Department indicate that in a selection covering the last 20 years, there's been an improvement in the number of lives lost per 100,000 people. We are reducing our injuries and loss of life on the roads. This time frame compared to recent times saw 4 to 5 times the number of people losing their lives per 100,000 people. Education, graduation, licensing systems, the laws, the car manufacturers and car manufacturing standards, and the enforcement have all contributed to this vast improvement. The AGF has compiled a range of vehicle and driver safety information and advice, including links to related websites. AGF stands for the Australian Government Department of Finance. The link is placed here in this presentation on the PowerPoint slide for you to go and read the article in depth. Let us turn now to interpreting and applying road rules applicable to safe car driving. Being a good driver does not just end up with you passing a test and getting your driver's license. Experience and staying up to date with road rules and driving is all about attitude and risk management. Everyone has a role to play as road users, keeping safe and making sure everyone adheres to road rules. The New South Wales Government has legislation that governs the road, and the legislation is Road Rules 2014, and the current version is dated the 30th of June 2015. This first one outlines the intent or outcomes that they want to achieve. The objective of these road rules is to consolidate in a single instrument the road rules that are applicable in New South Wales, to provide for road rules that are based on the Australian road rules, to provide for other road rules to be observed in this state in relation to matters that are not otherwise dealt with in the Australian road rules. Note, this is not uniform with the corresponding Rule 3 of the Australian road rules. A single point of reference within New South Wales and insurance that this reference is consistent with other states and territories within Australia. The next one outlines who is defined by the purposes of the legislation, and it is not just the driver. So a road user is a driver, a rider, a passenger or pedestrian. Driver is defined in Rule 16 and pedestrian is defined in Rule 18 and rider in Rule 17. 15 is what is a vehicle. A vehicle includes a motor vehicle, trailer and tram, a bicycle, an animal-drawn vehicle and an animal that is being ridden or drawing a vehicle, a combination, a motorised wheelchair that can travel at over 10 kilometres an hour on level ground, but does not include another kind of wheelchair, a train or a wheeled recreational device or wheeled toy. Various terms mentioned in this rule are defined in the dictionary. Rule 16 is about who is the driver. A driver is a person who is driving a vehicle except a motorbike, bicycle, animal or animal-drawn vehicle. Bicycle and motorbike are defined in the dictionary and vehicle is defined in Rule 15. Drive includes be in control of, see the definition in the dictionary. However, a driver does not include a person pushing a motorised wheelchair, and a wheelchair is defined in the dictionary. The top 10 misunderstood road rules. Please take the time to access the link that is presented here on the site and have a look at this top 10 misunderstood road rules in New South Wales. It's been provided by the New South Wales Government and has produced a very useful handout dealing with pedestrians, roundabouts, when to use lights and mobile phones, amongst other areas. Here's a learning task. Pedestrians, what is the law when you look at the picture? Picture on this slide indicates giving way to pedestrians when turning. Who has the right of way, the car or the pedestrian? What are the rules around U-turns? Do you know them? Can you remember them? Do you know what the line markings prohibit U-turns to be made? Have a look at this slide and refresh your memory around U-turns. Does an amber light mean stop or proceed with caution, or both, depending on the situation? Indicating. It is important to indicate to make other road users aware of what you are about to do. While there's not a specific distance, you must give plenty of warning, preferably 100 metres, by signalling with your indicator before making a turn or changing lanes. Always make sure that your indicator is switched off after you make your turn or lane change, as this can confuse other road users. If your indicator light is not working and or visible, then you must always give a hand signal. Giving way at T intersections. You must always give way to other road users or pedestrians on a road that has a T intersection unless otherwise signposted. Stop signs and stop lines. You must always come to a complete stop when you see a stop sign. Look both ways and then proceed. Mobile phones can only be legally used if attached to a fixed phone holder with a hands-free answering system. This includes the use of all navigation or GPS and audio functions. Overtaking is very risky and, if not done correctly, could put other road users, yourself and other passengers at risk. You should not overtake someone on a continuous line and not overtake a turning vehicle. You need a clear visual of any approaching traffic and enough room to overtake safely the vehicle in front of you. All other rules apply, including the set speed limit for that road. Merging. If you are in a lane that does not have a lane markings and you see that the number of lanes is reduced, you must merge by giving way to the vehicle in front of you. You must always give way to any vehicle that is travelling on the same direction and has already started merging in front of you. Anti-locking braking systems are available as vehicle safety features. The anti-locking braking system is a system that prevents the wheels from locking while braking. This enables the driver to maintain steering control while heavily braking. It prevents skidding and allows the wheel to continue forward. There's also seatbelt reminder systems in many new cars. It alerts the driver by a sound or a picture. Interpreting and applying road rules applicable to safe car driving. There is a 2-minute 13-second video, which helps you to brush up on your road rule knowledge by viewing the top 10 misunderstood road rules, and these are animated. Again, I encourage you to go to this site and watch the video to brush up on your rules. There's also the Roads and Maritime site, which provides safe and efficient actions whilst driving. Again, it is the Roads and Maritime website. The link is provided to you on this presentation. Let us have a look at managing collisions when driving a car. Hazards and risks faced by young drivers. There are internal common contributing collision factors such as behaviour and emotion cause the driver to operate a vehicle at high speed. These include the inexperience of the driver and other influences that cause their behaviour to take risks, even in the face of many hazards. Driving beyond the capacity of their skill level, driving beyond the capacity of the car, driving beyond the conditions of the road, and driving beyond the weather conditions. These result in injuries and fatalities which have a significant cost in not only monetary terms but personal terms. The following are 4 of the key findings from a paper released Young Adult Road Safety, a Statistical Picture. In developed countries, road crashes account for around a quarter of all deaths in the 15 to 24 age group. Worldwide, this age group is overrepresented in road crashes, with a population-based annually fatality rate over 50% higher than for other age groups. The highest period for risk is shortly after licence and continues up to 24. In fatal crashes, young adults usually die as an occupant of a vehicle, 77%, and often 67% in single vehicle crashes. Another piece of information of note was the Australian picture compared to other developed nations. Based on the graph that is presented in your PowerPoint slide, and despite the 29% reduction, there is still a way to go to improve the situation for this particular age group. France has the highest, and Australia is level with Germany at second highest. The website Act Now, that is now operated by the Reach Out organisation, undertook some research about the influences that affect young drivers. It is divided into 3 categories, being personality, social influences, and mental health issues. Personality included high levels of antisocial behaviour and aggression, and low levels of empathy were precursors to speeding. This is a serious combination of dangerous behaviours and attitudes towards driving, and consideration for passengers or innocent bystanders who could be involved in the collision. Other characteristics that may influence driving behaviour are excitement seeking, anxiety, anger, and risk aversion. A recent study in southeast Queensland reported that peer pressure was the cause of 42% of careless driving during the 17 to 24-year-olds. Parents also play a part. Their driving behaviour can be imitated. Important for adults' behaviour to demonstrate safe driving behaviour through the application of low-risk driving techniques. Depression, disturbed sleep and poor concentration all impair thinking and coordination skills, also contribute to risk driving. Young people who self-harm were at 42% higher risk of a crash. They were also more likely to be involved in multiple vehicle crashes, possibly because they may deliberately try to injure themselves using a car. Depression. Remember who is a road user, who else does it cover? The cost of accidents. When a crash does occur, the human body can only take a certain amount of force before you're injured. This is why it is important to ensure the vehicle is roadworthy and that the safety features are in working order. This includes having your vehicle regularly serviced, the brakes, shock absorbers, steering, oil levels, tyres and engine. In the New South Wales Government Legislation Road Rules 2014, Rule number 14 is a road user is a driver, rider, passenger or pedestrian. They too need to take the appropriate actions and behaviours that minimise their exposure to hazards and risks associated with the road. If you're a cyclist, you should wear the appropriate safety gear and stick to roads that have a bicycle lane or permitted footpaths. If you're a passenger, you need to speak up if you're in a car where the driver's behaviour is simply dangerous to him or her, yourself and other road users. The cost of road trauma. Costing the full impact of road trauma in 2010 is estimated the social cost of road crashes is $27 billion, as mentioned earlier. This is the equivalent of 18.3% of health expenditure and 1.8% of gross domestic product for the year 2012 to 2013. What is important to understand is that motor vehicle accidents do not only cost the road user. The $27 billion annual cost covers all of the other areas that are impacted and become involved as a result of road trauma. The impact on those involved in collisions then starts to flow on to family and friends, and then the wider impact. The impact of the emergency service workers and healthcare workers, which is during and post-accident. The impact to insurance companies for personal and property loss. The impact on employers and other government departments, such as RMS, court system and correctional authorities. The following extract from the Bureau of Infrastructure, Transport and Regional Economics in its paper released in 2012 put the cost of collisions based on the degree of injury to that of a fatality at the following amounts. These amounts are quite staggering, and certainly each life saved is worth more than the money alone. Now, by way of extension, they provide the following further breakdown in percentage terms about the dollar amounts. It is a combination of the financial, physical and psychological costs, headed by the human titles on the right-hand side of the pie chart that is presented here in the PowerPoint slide. BITRE released this in 2014, and the costs are in thousands, broken down based on whether the occupants incurred either an injury or were a fatality. It includes items such as workplace disruption costs, premature funeral costs for the fatalities. The numbers are very high and the costs are significant, which need to continue to be reduced. Let us consider technological advancement. Motor vehicles are continuing to be developed and produced with more safety driving technology. This technological advancement could be outstripping the skills of those who drive them. The introduction of cushioning systems that include airbags and crumple zones, ABS and suspension systems all improve the quality standard of motor vehicles. With this improvement also comes speed, and as you know, it is the #1 killer on the road. There's an interesting short video, how to control a rear-wheel drive car on a skid pan, available, and the link to this video is provided here in this PowerPoint presentation. There is a further presentation called Geared, which is if you're involved in a road crash, chances are the biggest challenge will be your physical recovery. And here are some ways to help you cope that are provided by the Roads and Maritime Services in this short article. The link to the article is provided here on the PowerPoint presentation. Let us now turn to demonstrating and maintaining a high level of competence in our car control skills. Again, many of you ought to be very competent in this area and have the knowledge. It is about competence when driving. You need to maintain a high level of competence when it comes to driving. This level of competence is needed to be demonstrated in all manner of environments, and those considered adverse being off-road, snow and ice, wet weather, and inclines and declines. There are specific methods that you would use for each of these conditions. General rules that apply are to keep the speed as low as practicable and drive within the conditions of the road and weather. Increase the distance between your car and the next car. Follow the suggested speed signs for undulating, zigzag and corners. Slow right down for corners, junctions and hazards. Be aware of fatigue in the changing road and weather conditions. Brake on the straights and never brake during a corner. Understand various braking techniques and the benefits of each, and also understand the benefits of ABS. Before the journey begins, you can help minimize the hazards for driving risks by adjusting your seat belt, mirrors and seat belt. Ensure that any passengers are strapped in correctly. When driving, always use your indicators and give adequate notice to others. Maintain adequate crash avoidance space. Stop for amber lights, except when it's not safe to do so. When we consider driving in remote and rural areas, this can put you at a high risk. So factors you need to consider are: assess the risks and hazards ahead of time, select the vehicle type that is better suited, make sure your communication lines are open, for example your radio and your GPS, inform your family and friends where you will be, consider getting an emergency positioning indicator radio and EPIRB. You can hire these. Equip your vehicle with the necessary equipment based on your travel destination, fuel, spare tyre, etc. Driving in areas with snow and ice, you need to pull away and accelerate gently and progressively. In slippery conditions such as snow and ice, aggressive acceleration is likely to break traction at the driving wheels. You need to be able to quickly recover from a wheel spin in these conditions. If you do notice wheel spin or the traction control systems fighting for grip, fight the urge to floor the throttle and instead back off the gas and then reapply smoothly. Similarly, in snow and ice conditions, you need to keep the engine speed as low as possible. Reduce the torque on the wheels, change up sooner rather than later, and pull away in second gear if possible. High gears reduce torque at the driven wheels and therefore lower the chances of wheel spin. There is more information about driving in snow and ice that you can find on the website www.drivingfast.net, and the link has been placed on the PowerPoint slide for you. Let us talk about understeer and oversteer. This next section that we're going to discuss shows situations that create trouble for the driver and provide useful tips on how to deal with both understeer and oversteer for motor vehicles. Understeer is where you're turning the vehicle of the car but it continues a straight trajectory, whereas oversteer is where you lose control of the back wheels of the car and it's on a spin trajectory. Understeer, the car loses grip for the front tyres, and rather than being able to turn as per the road and the black arrow, it skids and goes straight ahead. As instructor Dick Turner advises, the key to countering understeer is to do less of whatever it is you're doing. If you're on the throttle, back off a bit. If you're on the brakes, ease up your braking effort. And if you've turned in too sharply, dial in a bit less steering, then lightly apply the brakes. By asking the front tyres to do less work, you give them a chance to regain the grip. Oversteer, the car loses grip for the rear tyres, and rather than being able to turn as per the road and the black arrow on the diagram on the PowerPoint slide, it slides and follows the direction of the red arrow, so the rear end of the car slides. As Turner advises, though it's important to only move your hands as fast as the car is sliding sideways, too much correction will generally stop a slide in one direction, only to create a slide in the opposite direction. Too little correction and the car will continue to spin until the tyres regain traction or the car hits something solid. ABS and anti-locking braking systems. We mentioned these earlier in this presentation. ABS was introduced to cars in 1978, and ever since its first introduction it has continued to evolve. It is now considered very advanced and a key safety feature on modern cars to minimise collision. It provides a mechanism that senses the speed of each wheel on your car and detects any locking as a result of heavy braking. To avoid collisions, it's a combination of the reduction of the vehicle's speed while being able to steer the car to avoid the hazard. ABS allows the brakes to be pulsed, so lock and unlock very quickly, providing the combination just covered. This is particularly important when driving in adverse conditions such as wet or slippery roads. So I'm going to finish here with asking you to watch a video the link to which is found on this PowerPoint slide. The video provides a mechanical understanding and demonstration of the ABS braking system. My question to you is, what is the fastest method of slowing down in ideal conditions? The diagram that is placed on the PowerPoint slide indicates that details for the quickest method to slow down using different braking techniques. It presumes the driver is experienced. The quickest and fastest method in most conditions is ABS. However, not all cars are fitted with the ABS, and other braking methods should be understood. They are from the top of the image that we have here on the slide: cadence, locked wheel, ABS, and threshold. The threshold method of braking achieves the shortest braking distance, but is not necessarily easy to do. Other conditions which will affect the outcomes, such as tyre pressure, tyre temperature, road surface, age and condition of the vehicle and the driver. However, it is an overview and will provide the principles for each. I will leave you to read through this in your own time. In terms of steering technique, having a good steering technique is important. It ensures you have good control of the car and can adjust to any hazards that appear. Advice from car manufacturers that as a result of airbags and their deployment from the steering column hands needs to be at the 9 and 3 position. Previously we were told to be at 10 and 2 for good control and smooth drive for cars. This is considered to be the default steering position for everyday driving. There's a website, drivingfast.net, and it provides a lot of useful tips and techniques on car control issues, driving and steering. They suggest that for a tight right-hand hairpin, a suggested hand position is shown below. It is about a smooth movement that controls the car and provides for both hands to remain on the wheel while achieving the lock position of the steering wheel. The wheel can then return to normal position by the momentum of the car and the wheels returning to their straight position. Then if you then had a tight left-hand hair turn, the opposite hand positions would be used. Again, I refer you to the website, and it is provided here on the PowerPoint slide for you to have a look at a very short video about steering wheel control. So what about slow speed maneuvers? These maneuvers are any of the following: hill stops and starts, reverse parallel parking, U-turn or three-point turn, 90% angle parking, entering and leaving. These are important because they are all part of safe driving behaviour. Collisions occur at and in car parks, shopping centres, schools and back streets. Again, I refer you to the Geared website, owned and operated by the Roads and Maritime Services New South Wales. It has a useful guide for reverse parallel parking. It is called the Step-by-Step Guide. If you take the time to watch the video, the link to which is placed here on the PowerPoint slide, that provides a mechanical understanding and demonstration of how to reverse park, parallel parking. Similarly, Driving Test Tips from the UK website has a step-by-step guide on how to do a hill start, and the link is provided for you here on the PowerPoint slide. There is a very good video on how to do a hill start, which is also provided here, and the link is on the PowerPoint slide for you. How to turn your steering wheel correctly. Again, a video of 3 minutes and 47 seconds. It shows how to do that. The link is provided on the PowerPoint slide for you. There's a car braking demonstration video. Again, the link is provided on the PowerPoint slide for you. The Road Safety Commission offers a fact sheet and discusses how to drive in adverse conditions. It is important that you take the time to read this fact sheet, as it will provide in-depth and extended knowledge around driving in adverse conditions. That completes this module presentation, and if we recap, we have been through a significant number of areas of information relating to safe driving behaviour, not only around the statistics and the importance of being a safe driver and how you can be a safe driver, but also about education aspects of being a safe driver and how you can educate others. And finally, in the latter part of the presentation, we refresh and revise some of the key concepts around safe driving behaviour.